Okay. I'm about to watch this Evolutions of Arc Raiders episode 1. Starting it now.
Stockholm is the home of Embark Studios, the creators of Arc Raiders, and for the past few years I've been documenting the development of this game. But while most games change over the course of development, the story of Arc Raiders is a unique one. Because not only has this game changed dramatically, but the original version of the game that was shown to the public no longer exists. And ever since it was first shown, the internet has been asking one question: what exactly happened?
I've never actually seen the start of this to see what it actually looks like. So to see what this game was before it became what it is going to be very interesting.
To that version of the game. When the Arc Raider teaser trailer was first shown to the world at the Game Awards in 2021, it was a very different game. You see, back then it was being pitched as a co-op PvE experience with players able to jump high and run across a wide open map, working together to defeat massive machines with emergent behaviors. Players selected their characters from a set of defined heroes, and crucially, it was a free-to-play game. Over the next 4 years, Arc Raiders would evolve into something very different. A PvP-VE extraction game with denser, more lived-in levels. Machines of all shapes and sizes would populate this world. The enemies were driven by physics and groundbreaking locomotion tech, turning a once arcadey experience into something far more grounded. In this 3-part series, we're going to reveal not only why the original concept was killed, but how the current version of Arc Raiders rose from the ashes of that project. We're going to detail the bleeding-edge locomotion technology powering the movement of their most intimidating machines, how elements like gunplay and loot evolved over the years, why they dropped free-to-play, the impressive work done by the audio team, and...
This is supposed to be free-to-play. Still good though, still good. I think 30 or 50 I spent.
Much more. First things first though, to fully understand what happened to Arc Raiders, the game that was meant to kickstart this new studio, we have to go back to the founding of Embark itself. How did this new studio come about, and most importantly, how did they decide what type of games they wanted to make?
For some reason this reminds me of like the 90s with the floppy disk or the old Apple computers. I feel like that was a logo for the old Apple computer.
Like a lot of the initial employees at Embark and the founders came from DICE. And I've been in the industry for close to 20 years. Most of that spent with the people here. I shipped 21 games, one at EA, I think.
Battlefield. Medal of Honor. I do remember Medal of Honor. That was a real good game. Damn.
During my 20 years of building games or more, you know, the first game we built, we were 7 people in an apartment basically, you know, to then oversee productions with over 1,000 people. Are the games themselves better? There are more of them, they're at higher fidelity, but are they actually better games? How do we move away from productions that are so large that they're difficult to manage?
I mean, I was part of the group, the founders group, so I was here when we were 6 people. Technology-wise, I mean, we quickly settled on Unreal, and then in conjunction with that, we also had proprietary tech that we were developing, and then also, of course, invested heavily on procedural tools, especially for the content team.
The initial gang sat around a big table and discussed things that we want to explore and games that we want to try and see if this fits into something that we want to.
Could you imagine sitting at a table with 7 friends and then splitting millions, if not billions, if this thing goes great?
So we started this endeavor of making micro pitches. That we would come up with a simple game concept and talk about it for just a couple of minutes. And we started doing this over and over, we started seeing common thematics. They slowly formed into the initial pitch for what we wanted to make, so we pitched it to ourselves. A couple of these explorations were left by the wayside. One of them became the finals.
Which was an awesome game, and I think it's in season 9. I don't know why I stopped playing it, but I really did like this game, especially if they'd have made it into an esports game with actual teams.
A couple of thematics that we knew we were excited about was, of course, the prospect of space travel, the impending sort of ecological collapse, the rise of AI and the man versus machine angle. That was a game in there, and I think when we were the first initial group sort of vetting different concepts, I think those were the things that were sticky in there. I think from a mechanics perspective, I think the first pitch was something along the lines of session-based raids. To give you an idea, we talked about some sort of Venn diagram between Shadow of the Colossus, Left 4 Dead, and PUBG. Somewhere in the middle there was a game concept that, I mean, on paper, was a super compelling concept to us, especially the making you a small human in a vast world with huge machines. That's what we started to explore, not knowing at all what kind of game loop we were supposed to have, but just like looking at the prospects of different mechanics in that context.
So we wanted to make something completely our own. And everyone had an idea of something fantastical. Sci-fi leaning because it's comfortable, everyone kind of likes it, but it's also a challenge to carve out your own niche in that. And it was certainly challenging. Even my kid, who was like 11 or 12 at the time, just had the sentiment going, oh, new studio, sci-fi game, very original.
Embark's first game was going to define the studio, and they wanted to work on something that was outside of their familiar first-person military backgrounds, a game that was on the bleeding edge of technological innovation. The team entered a long period of brainstorming and ideation as the studio slowly built up around them, a process that gave them many of their most attractive ideas, but also created significant design cul-de-sacs that would prove troublesome down the road. This project was known internally as Pioneer.
We developed, I think, core mechanics at the same time as we were testing out some initial ideas about the game mode itself. No one was thinking about a larger meta game at that time, like what is the actual economy that drives the players' motivations and so on. We were literally exploring the initial mechanics of how does it feel to play against these machines, and because I think all games needs to go through that. Like, is there something fun in the second-to-second mechanics? Like, is it fun to even in FIFA? If it's not fun to kick a ball against the wall, it's not going to be a fun football game. Sort of put these large machines in this large world, and I mean, we're again testing out playing against these large machines just from a pure sort of game and spectacle. There was something there.
You can say it was an extremely ambitious project. It's supposed to be a new genre, or was supposed to be a new genre, and session-based raid with, say, 40 players. And you're supposed to take down huge obstacles together, like big bosses, big AI enemies that evolve over time. So every time you go into a session, you play against a new version of the AI. 3
to 4 teams, or more, I don't remember, but scattered out in a big world. And at some point, giant machines would arrive. It was already populated with smaller machines, but then we would have these larger machines arrive, and then we would sort of have the surviving players would then.
I actually like the way this looks. I feel like they should come out with this. They want to come up with a whole other game with this concept still, but call it something else. Just take away the skins or put in another person's perspective. Maybe the first war or the first wave. The first wave play like this would be dope.
Converge into these epic moments at the end tail of a session. We had some amazing playtests and amazing moments when we did that, and we saw the potential there, and we wanted to believe.
This looks hard. They should have kept this with the camera zoomed way more out. This looks so cool.
That we could replicate that on a consistent basis, but that's where I think where the sober eye should have come perhaps a little bit earlier than we wanted. We wanted to believe that we had something there, that there are some incredible moments in there. But the individual player there, if we were being honest with ourselves and looking at the game with the lens of trying to capitalize on that and make a game out of that, again, consistently replicating a player session that would hold those moments over and over again, I think that was much harder than we thought.
This version of the game, now known as Pio 1, was a very different game to the Arc Raiders we know today. Player movement was far more bombastic, characters were powerful, adopted the personas of various heroes, and worked collaboratively to hunt down these large machines. Very different to Arc Raiders in terms of both gameplay and tone. But many fundamental aspects of the game were developed in this period. Highly detailed, vast open terrain, the feel of the weapons, the look of the world. One such aspect, the technology driving the locomotion of these large robots, is going to require its very own video in this series. So look out for that soon.
What's exciting and what's still exciting is the fact that using this technology for our locomotion system is the door that opens up when you are training something to behave and walk by itself, and the nature, like when this player starts interacting with that and losing limbs and still it wants to stand up, it just opens that door to a new type of experience that players haven't had before, I think. They're literally playing against a machine.
We spent the majority of our first year just building tools. I also knew that we weren't going to get things right, that we were going to make a ton of mistakes along the way, and we